Well, it was another fine night in my home, and my dog and I slept. The next morning, back to research. I had a lot of stuff to figure out here if I was going to take these robots down. They were a right scary bunch. After having seen a few people go down to them, I wasn't terribly eager to get over there in their range. So I researched. I took breaks once in a while. And I researched. I was working towards smithing, trying to figure out how to get some basics down to make some guns. My original plan was for great bows, but I think I was going to head more towards some kind of bolt-action rifle with a nice long range. I felt like I was learning a lot while doing that research, certainly getting smarter, and that would help speed things up. That's what I did all day. It wasn't long before it was time to hit the hay. Next day, I was awoke by a crazy firefight. A bunch of pirates showed up, see about laying waste to me, and they happened to come on right by them robots. And holy cow, did it pop off. There was shooting, explosions, screams of people dying. Despite all their efforts and all their firepower, they didn't manage to take a single robot down. But they did manage to start one heck of a fire over there. Started burning them old caskets. And that was pretty horrible. You could hear the moans of the pirates laying down. Just a mess. People burning, bodies on fire, and it wasn't long before those caskets started bursting. All kinds of people ran out. Rather than fighting the robots, they just took off fast as they could. One of them burned right to death. Another poor bastard laid there, squirming in his own filth. I didn't know what to make of all this, but I knew I didn't want anything to do with this robot situation anymore. Poor Bun. He didn't even do violence, so if he did stand up, it wasn't going to be good for much. Those pirates had left some medicine, but it wasn't going to be any medicine I was going to be able to claim. That whole ancient building was going to burn down. By then my rice was ready, and a rare thrumbo paid me a visit. I had left them potatoes out, so maybe that critter will eat those potatoes. At this point, I decided to look around, see if there were any pack animals about. Based on all the madness going on here, I wasn't going to stay much longer. It was time to cut my losses. So I was planning my leave as I fixed my heater and worked on my rice. What a nightmare. My dog was excited. He couldn't settle down. All the chaos and the violence going on here. I didn't think my plan was going to work. I didn't have a way to outrange these fellas. I just gave up on it all. I could hear roofs collapsing while that old building was burning to the ground. That poor fella was laying there screaming, dying. I decided to go to bed before my mind broke. Right as fall had begun. The next morning, I made myself a bedroll, got my dog together, along with everything else I could carry. Turned out I had quite a few days worth of food sitting around here. So I took my silver, my gold, anything worth value, of course my bedroll. I only had one bit of medicine, but I brought that with. The only other thing I could really take was the silk. I figured that'd be worth something in the long run, so I brought it with. When I figured out where the heck I wanted to head, it was going to be a long haul, but I was going to get as far away from here as possible, as fast as possible. I followed the road on the map I'd been given by that friendly AI, plotting out a little course. And then off I went, packing up, getting ready to get out. It was sad. I really liked it here before them robots came along. Those dirty old pirates. I managed to avoid the robots on my way out, as the last of that old building was burning to the ground. They were still running around making crazy noise. But I was happy to be gone. Out on the road. First I had to travel quite a bit through the wilderness. But abandoning that base did feel good. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to risk dying there, like so many other people had. So I traveled by day. I slept in my bedroll at night. Being notified, people being hurt, needing help. For the minute, I was scared. I was just running. I couldn't be trapped. Didn't want to be held back. I had tons of food with me. Turns out I could make it quite a ways, and I decided to head somewhere where it was going to be warmer. Why am I putting up with all this cold when I could build myself a little house somewhere a little more comfortable? So that's what I planned. As day turned into night, night turned into day. I was getting a bit crabby. My recreation level was super low. I hadn't had any fun in a long time. I decided to keep traveling for a little while anyway, though. The days were alright when I was well rested and well fed. And the planet continued to turn. I continued to walk. It was quite a journey. Longest journey I'd ever made on foot, that's for darn sure. And my dog was happy. We crossed some more wilderness, forded some streams. Making our way somewhere in the world finally. We met a caravan at one point, and I decided to sell them the gold I had. Silver seemed to be more useful here for trading, buying stuff. This gold wasn't going to do me much good. They didn't have much else I was interested in. So I let it go at that. And I continued walking. Carried on with my path. Next day I'd started looking for a place to settle. It was high time I set up. Stopped walking. Made some more food. Settled in a proper bed for a change. And it wasn't long before I found a great spot. Some of these places had creepy caves. I tried to avoid that. God only knows what show up there. And just like that, I'd found a new home. It was a nice area, a little mountainous, lots of trees. Nice little structure I could leverage for a nice little home. And that's what I did. Planned out a spot to put my stuff. Made plans. Get a few trees chopped down and shore up the walls and build a proper door. And decided what I needed to prioritize my work on now that I was going to start all over from scratch. And hopefully there wouldn't be any of them creepy old robots around here trying to kill me. And them dirty pirates should take them a little while to find me, I hope. So, got all my stuff hauled in. Still wasn't safe, wasn't secure. But, planned out some walls and a door, and it certainly wouldn't be long. As the last wall went up, I tossed up the roof, planned myself a bed, even put in a little sleeping spot for Hamlet. My bed turned out right good. That was fortunate. And with that, I tidied up, spent my first night sleeping in my new home. I was going to have to sort out all the basics again. Power, lights, you name it. I felt like I'd given up everything, but I felt like it was worth it. I could make a real comfortable home here, and that's what I intended to do. There was plenty of resources. I decided a table would be in order. God knows I hate eating without a table. A little bit of recreation, some light by an old torch, be nice. I even found plenty of medicine laying around, which was fortunate. There was apples, pears. Seemed like this is going to be a great place to live. I was even in a nice little mountain nook. Be relatively easy to set up some proper defenses. Keep all the jerks out. If I could just avoid robots, that would be the best case situation. So I set to chopping a bunch of wood. I was going to need to build some more structures around. So that was my first priority. I had a man crash here. Right next to me, actually. Fell down out of the sky, wounded as can be. He wasn't going to make it very long. I decided maybe the reason all this bad stuff been happening to me is because I ain't been a very good person. So I decided I was going to help this man. At least get him patched up. Give him the ability to get out of here on his own. So I planned a little spot for him. Put him in it. Tended his wounds even. He was pretty crabby the whole time. He didn't have anything positive to say. But he was in a hell of a lot of pain, I'd imagine. So after I got him fixed up, I left him in that spot. And I went on inside just to chill out. That night it rained like crazy. And that man just laid out there. I'm not sure. Perhaps he couldn't get up. Seemed to me like he could. And my dog got sick from pemmican. I must have made some bad pemmican back at the old place. On that note, after chopping some more trees, I went to bed. Did some planning what I was going to do with my space. When that fella Spears got himself sick. Some kind of infection. So I hurried out to treat him. As I did that, a local squirrel lost his mind. Coming at me all crazy, frothing at the mouth. What is going on this planet? Certainly seems like it never ends with the nonsense and the madness. Fortunately, I got that squirrel taken down before he got to me. Lord knows I don't need rabies or something. And then I got back, treating Spears for his infection. It seemed like that took right forever. And again, he's the crabbiest fella on the planet. But I fed him a little bit, just to keep his spirits up. He didn't seem to mind too much laying out in the rain. I mean, he could have got up and walked off, and then he decided he wanted to live with me. Based on his rudeness, the fact that I'd helped him, I told him no. For some reason, I was a little sad to see him go. I was thinking about that as I was putting some potatoes in the ground so I'd have some proper food. After chopping a slew of wood, I put in my old faithful horseshoe pin. Started building the walls for my kitchen, storage area, butcher and sitting room. And I was starting to feel good despite it raining on my head. I had plenty of wood laying about, so I was making good progress. Getting them walls up. Worked all day on it. Even decided to mine out some of the mountain, make a little more space in there. After that, it was high time I went to bed. While laying there, sleeping, a caravan rolled up. When they showed up, they did mention they had experienced a real creepy building up to the north of my new home. And I sure hope another meteorite doesn't crash into that and release some robots upon me. I can't take much more of that. This is the worst planet on the universe, man. Did some trading with them fellas. They wanted to buy Hamlet, but I refused. I did sell them all that silk I'd been sitting on. Thought about selling my wood, but in the end I decided to keep it. I really didn't have the money to afford too much from them. I thought a nice helmet would be good, but I was just shy. Other than the silk, that was all I traded them for. I just hauled stuff around for a little while, tidying up. The dog had barfed all over the room where I was sleeping. For some reason, that actually improved it in my mind. Guess I love that dog more than I know. With that, the first little basic structure I was working on was finished. I was picking up rocks that were laying around, slowing me down, and I decided to tear apart some local structures, see if I could gather some materials to continue my building here. I was going to need power. I was certainly going to need some steel, and I found a little steel building nearby. I got all that hauled up and taken care of. There was a huge vein of steel, terribly close as well. So I planned on mining that while I picked up the rest of the wood I'd left laying around. I was going to need it when my torch burnt out. After that, it was time to clean up the room. The dog barf just wasn't very appealing to me. And then some trees needed chopping. I got that handled, lickety-split. Those people were letting their dang animals run around all over the place inside my new buildings. I'd had a rabbit decide he was a friendly guy and want to hang out with me. And for the minute, I let him sit and chill. Not sure what I'd do with that little fella. I don't want to get too fond of him because I might have to eat him at some point. But for now, I'm trying to be happy and at peace with the world and not do anything bad to anybody anymore. Even if it means going out of my way a bit. I did find some components locked up in the rocks in my new butcher and sitting room, so I nabbed them. Those would be real useful when I needed to build windmills again. And before bed, I decided to toss some horseshoes. Another great night's sleep was had. In the morning, I decided it was time to do some steel mining. I was going to need a lot of steel. If I was going to get a couple windmills up, I needed lights, heaters. I planned out where my windmills were going to go. The problem was there were so many trees around. So I was going to have to do a whole lot of chopping. First priority though, get the steel together. And then after a while mining, I felt like I had plenty of steel. So I had myself a meal, did a tiny bit more mining to make a little more progress on my room. Then I got to some building projects. There was power cable and all kinds of stuff. Guy needs some rest once in a while, so I just laid there watching the fog roll overhead before heading off to bed that night. In the morning, pemmican it was, and I had a refugee phone saying she is being chased, also demanding that I tell her what the name of this place was. So I named it Mountain Abode. Her name was B, called herself a human computer. She came running in, of course, completely unarmed. I suppose if she had a weapon, she might have turned around and thumped whoever was chasing after her. She seemed pretty tightly wound and a little upset that she was out and about during the daytime. But otherwise, she seemed like a decent chap. It wasn't long before them dirty old pirates that were chasing after her showed up. Turns out, some girl named Scarlet. She's a cute looking girl. Too bad she's so rude. She was high on dope of some type. Wasn't much of a fighter either. I wasn't too worried about how this was gonna go, even though I didn't have any defenses around here. I just went about the business setting up steel for my wind turbine and my power. And B showed up. She actually did some hauling for me. And while I was building that turbine, that pirate got kind of close. Decided perhaps I'd better deal with that issue. So I hid behind a tree with my gun. Gave her the business when she got close. And she almost got a piece of me. Now B was running around hauling rocks and stuff. I was over here damn near getting killed for her. So I screamed for B, see if she could lead this person around, get her off my back. And B did just that. I did my best not to shoot B. This gun isn't the most accurate thing on the planet, that's for certain. But B was running, Scarlet was chasing after her. I damaged my own unbuilt windmill somewhat bad. And Scarlet decided she'd rather have a piece of me. Then B, she started chasing after me. She even attacked my rabbit. Now that's just a bridge too far. So I went over there and gave her the business up close, and that took her down. There she lay. And she left me some drugs, which might be alright if I got overly tired. I made D dig a hole to bury her in. And she was happy to oblige. At that point, I just went back to working. There's still a whole slew of rocks to be hauled. I let B take the knife that Scarlet had been chasing after her with. I made her bury that body as well, since I'd gone out of my way to rescue her. I finished building my windmill, and I had to repair it straight away, as I gave B the bad news that she couldn't be hanging out around here for too long. And she seemed like a nice person. I was a little upset, have to make her leave. But whatever the heck got that pirate chasing her means she's trouble, and that's the last thing I need or want here. After that, it was time to clear out all the plants that were blocking my windmills now that they were both finished. I got some peaches out of the deal. That was right sweet. A lot of trees, so a bunch of extra wood coming in just from doing all that clearing. And the plants came down pretty quick. Turns out, despite Scarlet's best attempt, she wasn't able to stab that rabbit. And he was right healthy regardless. Her best duty is to kill it. After chopping plants for most of the day, I decided to go to bed. I'd forgotten. I never gave Hamlet a place to sleep. So I did that. And we all slept. That rabbit was right friendly with the dog. You'd think a dog would eat a rabbit, but Hamlet was a gentle soul. Did some plant cutting in the morning. Tried to harvest some apples. Ended up smashing them all in my big meat hook hands. Time to do a little more construction about. I could use heaters and lights, some power conduit. So I worked on that, got my lights going. My power conduits were running throughout my new home area here, and that was great. All the lights came on. I decided I could claim some granite from this old wall, these old floors that were laying nearby. I ripped all them up. That'd come in right useful when it was time to build some walls to keep people out of this area. Mostly them dirty pirates. I had to spend some time training Hamlet. He is slowly learning how to haul, and that's a good thing. I mixed up my day between doing a little construction, mining out some of my new space to make my rooms decent sized, putting up walls. I had one thing I had at this point. It was a surplus of wood. So the walls went up. Some of the trees that were in the way had to come down. And periodically, I had to go down to sleep as well, as I was tired. This big, giant, crazy creature looked kind of like an oversized raccoon or something. Started hanging around at that point. But he didn't seem very friendly, and I didn't want to push it. These crazy critters milling about as well smell like gasoline, running around, eating some of the plants nearby. Starting to get a little low on food. That was making me a little bit worried as I laid there, staring up at the sky, having a brief respite from all this crazy work. I wish I wouldn't have had to give up my last home. But that's how it goes. That crazy oversized raccoon had eaten a bunch of my peaches, which is my fault for leaving them out, I suppose. And I got to doing some mining in my new rooms. Well, Hamlet, darn near ready to start hauling. It wouldn't be more than a few days before he'd be helping out with that. I planned some floors in my new rooms, also a cook stove, and a butcher spot. I built the butcher spot. I was eyeing that rabbit up. In the end, I decided not to do it. That big crazy creature that ate my pears was looking delicious, and he was mighty huge. Also looked like he might kick the crap out of me if I tried to give him some business, so I left him alone for the minute. In between putting in floors, training Hamlet, hauling all these rocks out of the way, it was a busy day, and I was right tired when I went to bed that night. In the morning, I realized I really did care about Hamlet. He was a good guy. I was happy to have him around. My only companion, other than this rabbit, but I'm sure that rabbit wouldn't be lasting long. I decided to use some of my rooms for storage, both random stuff and for food. I got to hauling all my crap around. Needed to do some more mining, as I was going to need to refrigerate my food area. So I mined and mined till I thought I had plenty of that. Crazy ambrosia sprouted nearby. Some kind of wonder food or something. Probably just another drug though. And I was contemplating whether I could make use of that while tossing some horseshoes. Did a little more flooring that day, and then was off to bed, listening to that crazy huge beast snore outside. In the morning, back to working on floors, working on my refrigerators, for which I was woefully short on components and could not finish. But I sniffed some out not too far away, and set to mining them out of the stone. Took me all day, but I got a bunch, and for that I was fortunate. And now I could finish my coolers. I walked back with a light step, feeling pretty decent about the progress I had made at this point. Had a little pemmican when I got back, and I was off to bed. In the morning, I harvested some cherries from a tree. That'd be a nice little treat. Someone from Old Earth must have brought those things here, 'cause they ended up all over this planet. I was gonna have to build my cooler soon, and keep that giant raccoon from going in, eating all my food. I could see him sniffing it out. Him and Hamlet were in some kind of standoff. Don't know what to make of that. But they didn't get into it, so I let it go. Speaking of Hamlet, it's high time I did a little more training on that boy. He's been taking to it really well, and I'm getting better at it. I decided to try and train that rabbit to listen a little better. Don't know what he's good for. Really not much of anything, but seemed like a nice little fella. Although nice little fellas don't seem like they're gonna last too long on this planet. With my coolers in, set them down nice and cold, get my food frozen. Did some mining, a little bit of space I could reclaim in the cooler. Now focused on mining for a little while in my new sitting area. That left some floor space unfinished, so I plan to finish that. Still had plenty of wood sitting outside, and I had a nice table now. I'd moved it into the new sitting room from a bedroom. Sat, just enjoying the night. Power wasn't working too well, but I wasn't terribly concerned with that. After that, it was off to bed. Had a good night's sleep. Thought I'd made great progress here in my new home. Hopefully, things continued to go well. That fire in the distance didn't bode such.